Welcome to the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast, a podcast where we teach speakers how to land paid speaking engagements and corporate contracts. Each week, we deliver high-quality content that teaches you how to level up your speaking business. Be sure to join the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group after having your mind blown by this information-filled episode. Now, here's your host, Ashley Kirkwood, lawyer and professional speaker. This is the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast.
Hey guys, it's Ashley Kirkwood with the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. And I'm so excited that we have Cathleen Fillmore here, and she'll be talking about her experience owning a speakers bureau and also helping speakers to market their businesses. Kathleen, welcome to Speak Your Way to Cash.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I'm really happy to be here.
Yes, I'm happy to have you as well. So tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to start a speakers bureau.
Totally accidental, as most good things are, right? I started out as a writer in the 1980s, and everything fell out. I mean, the market just fell apart for writers. I'd write all these great articles, and magazines wouldn't accept them, and it was heartbreaking. And so after a while, I moved to Nova Scotia for 3 years to write a book. And I just thought, I'm going to give it one more shot. I'm going to write this book or walk into the ocean, one or the other. And so I spent 3 years there. And while I was there, I started the Atlantic branch of the Speakers Association. I'd only been to 2 meetings in Toronto. It wasn't even national then. And so this was the late 90s, and we were just getting our Speakers Associations national. So I started the Atlantic branch kind of accidentally because I thought it would be fun to have one. I'd been to a couple of meetings. That's how much I knew. And I ended up being president because no one else could be president. So then it opened a whole new world for me. Now I do as much writing as ever, but I'm working with speakers who so inspire me.
So one of the things that we discussed earlier, before we even tapped in, is you said that Canada may be a better market for speakers right now because there's less disruption. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Here's what happens is the strongest market in the world has always been the U.S. market. But right now, the U.S. market is, I don't know if the Canadian market is stronger. I mean, we've got 1/10 of the population, so perhaps not. But what happened in the economic downturn, Canada ended up being in better shape than the U.S. And so a lot of speakers were calling me and saying, oh, can you get me a gig in Canada? Can you get me a gig in Canada? And, oh, I've been to Canada twice, right? Can you get me a gig in Canada? And, of course, it really doesn't matter where someone's from. But I think when Canada was dealing with SARS, I'm sure Canadian speakers were hitting on the U.S. market. So it just depends on what is going on in a country. I think we are going to get a lot of requests from U.S. speakers, right, for the Canadian market. However, neither of the markets are going to do really, really well right now, or for the next little while. Who knows?
Right. Hey guys, it's Ashley Kirkwood here, and I know this is an amazing interview. And if you are someone who is interested in taking your speaking career to the next level, then do I have something for you? Okay, I need you to go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay. That's ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay. The link is also in the show notes that you can grab the Speak Your Way to Cash live replay, which has 7 modules, a ton of information about how you can start speaking your way to cash. Now, this training is absolutely action-packed, phenomenal. It has additional resources. It has templates. It has a podcast pitch template, a college pitch template, something you can send to media outlets to get on television. It has everything you need to develop a sales strategy, a press strategy, and a plan to skyrocket your speaking career. And it is crazy affordable, okay? So head on over there right now, ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay, and grab your copy today. All right, let's get back to this interview. So how has COVID impacted the Canadian speaking market? Are things shut down? Are events happening in person there? What are the differences?
There's probably not a lot of difference. We have fewer incidents of COVID. We've got a larger country, less population, and a lot more space and water and so on, which is good in terms of antiviral. So Canada hasn't been hit as hard, but everything's shut down. I mean, Canada's been very conservative in terms of shutting everything down. So Toronto particularly has been shut down because we're the hub of the country. So that will be shut down. And I don't know when it will be coming back. There will be virtual events for sure. Yeah, in both countries.
Yeah. And I'm still being booked for virtual events in the US now. And I haven't done much work in Canada. And I've had speakers from Canada come to my events, the Speak Your Way to Cash events in Chicago, back when we were having in-person events. And some of the feedback that I've gotten from my Canadian speaking clients is that they can't demand the same rates in Canada as they could in the US. Is there a big rate difference between the Canadian market and the US market?
I don't know how big it is, but there certainly is a rate difference. Yeah, and as I said, the U.S. is best paid market in the world. What's really been interesting to me is I would talk to a speaker one year, maybe when things economically weren't great in North America, and her fee would be $7,500. And then I'd call her again the next year and say, well, I've got something for you. Can you give me your fee again? And it would have been doubled. Same topic, same everything. So, yeah. I mean, U.S. speakers are really good at keeping an eye on the market, and they'll drop their fee when they need to, and they'll up their fee when they need to. So right now, fees are all over the place.
Yeah. And that's one of the things is when you are a speaker, a part of the fee increase is on demand because there are just periods in a speaker's life. And we're going through that now with my firm where you're just in demand. Like people are calling you every single day. You're on pitch calls every single day and you just can't service every client at a particular rate. And it's hard. The hardest conversations for me are those when the fee goes up. It's harder to tell your current client that you've been doing work for. I can't operate at that rate moving forward. But it is true. Is that a U.S. speaker thing, or does that happen in Canada as well with the rates going up, or is it more consistent?
I think it's more consistent, a little more conservative. I mean, in many ways, we're a more liberal country, but in terms of government and finances, so on, we tend to be a little more conservative. It's kind of strange, but U.S. speakers are not, and so they'll just go to the top dollar they can get. And if they don't get that, if they misjudge, if they miscalculated, they're in big trouble because they'll hurt their branding if they go down, right?
Right, exactly. That's a really good point.
Yeah, it's a really good point. You've got to get it spot on. I'm creating a program with a colleague of mine, and I said we've got to get our pricing exactly right because if it's too low, we kill our branding and we lose much more than any finances kill our branding. And if we go too high, we won't get the people. So that will also kill our branding. So it's the same for speakers. It's got to be absolutely right on. And they have to make a decision as to whether they're willing to negotiate or not. And these days, I think speakers and bureaus are willing to negotiate. There was a time when bureaus would say, well, Ashley, you need fee integrity. And
right.
So if you're quoting $7,500, which seems to be a popular fee, it's probably around the norm. If you're quoting $7,500, then we're going to make you stick to that, because if someone goes and hires you and you give them a cheaper rate because they go to you directly, you're hurting the bureaus. And so we won't represent you if you do that. And they were really hard on speakers. And they said, you go through us or you don't do it, or you at least stick to your fee if you book it yourself. Yeah. But now bureaus are also dealing because they kept losing speakers or have speakers kind of cheating on them, right? And they couldn't monitor it. It just wasn't practical for them because everyone has to negotiate. We live in a world of negotiation, and that's only going to increase.
Absolutely. And you brought up a really good point about bureaus. And for a lot of the folks in the Speak Your Way to Cash community, so I predominantly work with speakers who are just either they've been speaking a long time, but they have not been getting paid for it, or they're in their first 5 years of their speaking career and they're trying to consistently consistently get booked and paid to speak. How does that work with a bureau? Because in my speakers' minds, they think a bureau is the answer to all of their problems. So ideally, they want to get signed to a bureau and they believe that the bureau will then bring them all of this business and get them fully booked out. How is it in reality working with a bureau? And when is a good time for a speaker to seek bureau representation?
Well, in my marketing work with speakers, I was working with one speaker who's listed with another bureau, and the owner's a really good friend of mine. And in fact, we collaborate and partner, which bureaus never do, but we do. And so we're really close friends. And I said, well, here's what you need to do with your material to make it easier for Gordon to book you. And he said, well, I don't see why I should do any work to make Gordon's life easier.
The speaker said this about his agent.
Yes, who's been a very close friend to him, who loses money trying to book him gigs. And so I just said to him, he is not your employee.
Absolutely not.
So that's the thing. Bureaus are partners. They're not employees. And then that's something I am just so fussy about. I'm unemployable. I don't work for anyone, right?
Yeah.
But speakers can demand a lot from bureaus and they can treat them as if, we're working solely for them. But we run a business. And our business has to be viable. So if you're making $1,500, I had a call from someone, like she calls me every year or 2 or 3 or 4. Her agent, whoever that is, calls me and says, will you book her? And I always try and answer because I know it's tough out there. And then she'll say, well, her fee is $1,500. And I said, well, I can help you move that up, but I can't book you at that because I work on commission. I wouldn't want to take commission out of $1,500. Good heavens, you would have nothing to eat, right?
But that's a really good point. So you all work on commission. And I think that we should discuss that because this is what, and you let me know if this is correct, because you've been in the industry longer and you understand how bureaus work. I'm of the mindset that agents and bureaus want speakers who are already being booked, not speakers who can't book themselves. Is that correct?
Yes, of course. I just talked to a new bureau the other day, and she was a former meeting planner. So she's in great position in terms of having the outreach to open a bureau. And she said, well, actually, I'm, kind of having conversations with another bureau who's just started up. And she said the other bureau's criteria for taking on a speaker is that they're already booked a lot. You know what? This is kind of hard, but it's also very practical and it makes sense because it's not an easy business. It is not.
No. And we know that as speakers because
of course
it's hard for us, right? And like I try to tell my speakers, my first year doing speaking professionally, I probably pitched 1,000 engagements. Like 1,000. Like it's a ton of work to get booked at the rate that I wanted to get booked at and to be booked out. So it's it's a lot of work. To hand that off to someone is no easy feat. So it's more of a partnership. You're already being booked. You have business. You share contacts. They share resources. And both of you hopefully get paid.
Everything I do is partnership. Everything I do. When I work with a client, it's partnership. I can't work without them. I can't make them do things they don't want to do. So I'm careful who I work with. But everything I do is partnership. Absolutely everything, right? And when you think about it, isn't it?
Yep. It is. Everything is. And I like that methodology. One of the questions that we've gotten from our audience is from Turner. And it says, I'm a powerful speaker, but I just discovered that. And now I'm ready to speak in jails and to people involved in the criminal justice industry. How do I get an agent that works on commission? Should I be pitching agents by email?
Work in jails. Interesting, because I'm writing 2 books, one on violence and one on dysfunctional prison systems in North America. I mean, I'm not going to go around the world, but North America I can handle.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be interested in talking to him if he wants to reach me and get in touch with me. I don't know that there's a speaker's market for that. I really have to check into that because the thing is that you'd be speaking to corrections officers. Mm-hmm. You won't get paid for speaking in jail. That's a charity, right? So you speak to prisoners who probably need to hear from you. There's a lot of red tape involved in doing that, and you would not get paid. If you spoke to corrections officers who no doubt need to hear from you, and there's probably a fairly healthy market for it, I would say it's likely at the lower end of the spectrum. But because people aren't looking for that, I think that would be a good market to go after, frankly.
That's a really...
You'd have the whole North American market open to him.
Yeah, that is a really good point that, go with the correctional officer route. And then maybe while you're there, you could do something gratuitously for the folks that are in prison there.
Well, there's a whole lot of red tape involved because you have to be vetted, and you have to, like I have done that as a volunteer. You have to be vetted, and so that they'll let you in, and you can imagine why, right? So maybe you're a jailbreaker kind of person, right? And you come in with a blowtorch or something. So they just have to. There's a process to go through that. But speaking to corrections officers, I mean, if you want change, that's where change is going to happen. Is with the people on the front line. They need to understand that there are better ways to do things, right? Yeah.
Hey guys, Ashley Kirkwood here, and I just want to take a moment to invite you out to the Speak Your Way to Cash retreat. If you enjoy this podcast, then you will love the Speak Your Way to Cash 2020 retreat in October. This retreat is for speakers looking to grow their speaking businesses, land corporate or college clients, and skyrocket their earning potential as a speaker. The in-depth sessions at this multi-day retreat will leave you understanding exactly the high-level client acquisition strategies that I use to land corporate clients. You'll also know the exact steps you need to be taking to grow your current business. Let's get to the nitty-gritty. The sessions are amazing. We talk about selling your signature speech, and we actually have time to go over the techniques of speaking. So if you want to become a better speaker as well as a higher paid speaker, then you should come out. We have another session called TEDx Secrets. Bring your laptops. We are actually going to be looking up and applying to TEDx Talks at the retreat. This session will be critical if you're someone who wants to land a TEDx Talk. Client secrets. You'll hear from actual clients about what they want from speakers just like you, and selling success. We cannot do a retreat without talking about selling. But here's the session that I'm most excited about. We are going to do a vision organizational chart party. That means we are going to have not just vision boards, but vision org boards. We are going to map out how your speaking organization should be staffed, what you want that to look like, and how to use global outsourcing in a way that lets you fund the positions in your company that are currently open. So it's for you if you're ready to level up. If so, meet me in Chicago in October. Reserve your seat now. I'm only taking 30 speakers on this retreat. So go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/2020 retreat. And the best part is you can get early bird pricing now of $550, or you can reserve your seat for just $75 down and make payments until the retreat. That's right. You can either pay in full and get early bird pricing of $550 for the entire 2-day experience, or you can reserve your seat for just $75 down. Whatever you decide to do, make sure you're in the room. It's going to be impactful, and I'm ready to help you start speaking your way to cash in October. Again, the website is ashleynicolekirkwood.com/2020 retreat. See you soon. Can't wait, guys. There's a particular market of bureaus that actually they are called bureaus, but they're not traditional bureaus. So they charge speakers a fee and then they pitch them, which is, I believe, a particularly different service. What does that look like when we're looking for bureaus like myself? I'm not represented by a bureau right now. A lot of the bureaus that approached me early on they wanted an exclusive relationship, and I wasn't comfortable with that early on. What should we be looking for? If you are a speaker, you have a book of business, you're thinking of taking the bureau route, what would you suggest we look for when we're approached by agencies or when we start to approach agencies?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure going exclusive is a good idea. I have seen one of the top bureaus in Canada, or some of the top bureaus in Canada, will ask for speakers to go exclusive. And because they've got a great brand name, speakers will do it. And I'm saying, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not in your best interest.
Right.
Sure, they're a little more motivated to push you a little more, but in fairness to all of their speakers, they really shouldn't be doing that. I'm going to promote the top tier a little more. I mean, it's not all about money. It's about who's right for the job, right? And the thing is that you can't control how many gigs they're going to get for you, but you can't go anywhere else until you finish your contract. I had one guy who's now in the States. He was in the top 20 under 20 in Canada. He's a big, big name now, and he's in his 20s. And so I met him, and he said, I'm exclusive with this bureau, which was not my favorite bureau. And I said, stop it now. Just stop. When's your contract up? He said, April. I said, well, here's what. They know and you don't. They know very well it's not in your best interest. They've neglected to tell you that. What kind of ethics is that, right? I said, don't. They're not the biggest name. If you're going to go exclusive, at least go with the biggest name, but they're not. They won't get you the most gigs, and they're not promoting you properly from what I'm seeing on the website. So I said, stop. And he did.
Good.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that it's not all about money, but finances are at least a part of the consideration when figuring out whether it's a good partnership for you to work with a speaker. What would be a good rate if you're splitting the commission, and what does that commission split look like? Does that vary based on the speaker? How does that side of the business work?
Well, in the U.S., the normal commission is around 30%. In Canada, it's anywhere from 25 to 30. I was at 30, but my bureau partner was at 25. He had the bit of the lower end of the market, but he's pretty amazing. And so I agreed that I would go for 25 too. You know, I just don't like to rip speakers off, right? However, it is a whole lot of work. I'm telling you, I've had tracks where I've negotiated and fiddled around and changed with and so on. And it's been about 12 times that there's been a back and forth of phone calls and everything. So it's just really strange how that happens. Yeah. So I don't know. It's 25, 30% is what you're looking at for most bureaus.
Okay. So 25 to 30%. And then of what level of a speaking fee should someone be getting for it to be worth your time at that commission rate? Is it over 5,000 or is it over 7,500?
I would say 5,000 would be the minimum for most bureaus, unless they're starting out. But 5,000, yeah, generally speaking. And I mean, 5,000 was the going rate, was kind of the average rate for speakers in Canada several years ago. So I think 5,000 is low. That's the low end of the market. It used to be the kind of average, but I think now it's the low end.
And when you say that, when you're booking speakers, because we know there's so many different avenues that speakers can work in, that's corporate trainings, keynote speeches, multi-month consulting contracts with the speaking component. What types of engagements are you particularly booking speakings for? Is it straight keynotes?
Straight keynote, yes. Straight keynotes, often for government or not-for-profits. And I tend to represent more thought leaders because they're the people who interest me the most, generally speaking. But now my bureaus become more diverse. But yeah, generally thought leaders and often government work and sometimes international work.
And what topics in the thought leadership space are still booking even during this pandemic? Have you seen particular topics that are doing better than others?
Well, I am just going to predict what I think is going to be sustainable in the pandemic. And I was just writing about that today. I think trust and negotiation is going to be, the leaders in that field are going to do fine. I think health and safety has never been more needed. So, especially with COVID restrictions, right? People are going to need to know more than the regular health and safety. So they're going to need health and safety experts to come in to give them a boost and also to remind them of how important it is that if your colleague sneezes on you, you probably want to report that, right?
Yeah.
But they also need someone to cheer them up and to animate them. I think inspirational speakers, some of them, the top of crop, will still be popular. And there are a few other fields that I think will do well. But those are some of the top ones.
Definitely. And one of the topics that's doing really well in the U.S. right now are diversity and inclusion topics and speakers who are really thought leaders in that space, especially in light of the Black Lives movement, the Black Lives Matter movement taking particular force right now with everything that's going on. Has Canada seen a similar uptick in the DEI space or no?
Absolutely. I can't believe that I forgot to mention that. That's going to be the topic, I think, coming up, but it does not mean that if it's not your topic, you should grab it. Don't
I agree.
To your field, right? But,
yes. Good
but
point.
There's not only a real hunger for that, but corporations want to cover themselves, right? I mean, let's face it. It's not that they necessarily suddenly care so deeply about this, but this is hot and they've got to cover themselves and they've got to look like a great corporate citizen, right?
Yeah.
And that they care. And of course, they will care, even if they don't now. But that's going to be top. Diversity in all of its shapes and forms. Yeah, so it'd be, if you have a disability or if you're in a certain ethnic group or whatever it is, I think it's a really good topic.
So in what ways do you work with speakers other than through your bureau? Do you do any other work for speakers outside of running the bureau?
I do. I have a marketing program for speakers, so I'll work with speakers one-on-one. I'm very careful about the clients I take on. It's going to be a good fit. And I've got to look at what they've got and know that I'm able to help them, in which case then tell them about my program. Otherwise, I don't. But basically, I look for ways to increase their income. And for me as a writer, everything starts with a message. If you haven't got your message right, you should not be in the market. You will just break your heart over and over again. You break your heart, and people don't understand the importance of it. But it's like trying to run your car without gasoline. Messaging is the gasoline. So I work on the messaging till it's really perfect, or we work on it together, and then I look at strategy. Okay, now you've got your message. Now you're really clear on what you offer and what the value is. You've got to provide the value, and you've got to make that value clear to your client, right? And then we look at strategy. Okay, here's your market. Here's where you will find it, and here's how you should approach it. And after that, they can list with my bureau if they choose to, because now I know them inside out. Mm-hmm. They can go out on their own if they choose to. That's totally up to them. They can go with other bureaus. It doesn't matter. So in that sense, it's kind of a separate business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the questions that came up is there an angle that you suggest an inspirational speaker hone in on? This is my area. I will say, Felicia, one of the things we talk a lot about packaging, like you just stated, and being an inspirational speaker is not enough. I think that corporations particularly are hiring experts. So if you are an expert in a particular field and you can make that message inspirational, that's going to be the way to go. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think that inspiration is great. I have listened to messages that have so inspired me, and then I've walked out into a snowstorm and become uninspired, like within minutes.
Yeah.
On a high, and then all of a sudden I'm bummed out, right? I'm just, whoa, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So, and that can be the problem with inspiration, right? It doesn't always stick with you. So you need something with clout. You need to bring the thought leader into that inspirational speech, because we're all thought leaders, aren't we? We're taking the world to another place. Aren't we all thought leaders? Of course we are.
Yep.
If we're not, we shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
If you don't have great value to bring, or if you no longer feel that passion in the field that you used to feel, get off the stage, right?
Yeah.
Because I think you need some content that people will remember. Wow, I remember he said that. I remember she said that.
Yep. Something that they can repeat. I remember when I first started doing the currency of confidence, and we talked about the MBA of confidence, mindset, belief, and actions, and we would get our testimonial videos back. People would always remember that. They were like, yeah, MBA, mindset, beliefs, actions. And so there's something that they can actually take with them, and it gave them a framework for dealing with confidence issues that we deal with every single day. But you're right. I've also watched inspirational messages. And if there isn't something that I can grab hold and take with me on my day-to-day activities, I'll forget it. It's just
it's not like you can kind of infuse it every day, right?
Right.
But sometimes the speakers up there are not really aligned with their message either. And so it'll hit you for a minute and then it will leave. And then it tells you that something's not lined up there.
Yeah. That's a really good point. So this has been great. If people want to get in touch with you, they want to connect with you, where can they do that?
I would love to hear from them. And I have a newsletter, which is really very, very well received. So if you just email me at Kathleen with a C, Cathleen at speakersgold.com. So speakers with an S on the end, and gold, GOLD.com. I'd love to hear from your people.
Awesome. Well, you all have our information. Thanks so much for joining the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. If you have not already, head to AshleyNicoleKirkwood.com. Make sure you're on our email list. And if you're interested in coming to our virtual now retreat, everyone can attend no matter where you live. It's AshleyNicoleKirkwood.com/2020 retreat, where we will be talking about how to build your speaking business and use the press to increase your brand awareness. All right. Talk to you guys later, and we're out. All right. Wasn't that interview amazing? If you're anything like me, you have pages full of notes. But here's the thing. Before you head out, I want you to go to facebook.com and join the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group. That is where I am. That's where a ton of other speakers are, a ton of other people who listen to the show. We all congregate there and chat. And it's 100% free. Now, if you're ready to take your speaking career to the next level, I have 2 ways for you to do that. One, you can go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay and pick up the live replay. That training is 7 modules, chock full of information. It's crazy. Go over there, read all about it. Or if you want a more personal experience, you already know that you want to be a speaker. You're ready to fully commit and you want someone to walk you through it and save you tons of time Googling and doing it on your own, then book a VIP day with me. You can go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com, scroll down until you see the VIP day section and get more information on that there. All right. Thank you guys again for watching. Please do not forget to leave us a review. That is how we keep this train rolling and get some of the best speakers in the world to get on this show. So please, please, please leave a review. Shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram, and Facebook in the Speak Your Way to Cash group, Instagram at the Ashley Nicole Show. And I'd be more than happy to chat with you and say hi. All right, y'all have an awesome, awesome day.